Hey guys, we're the Jersey Comic Crew. Today we are talking Wandavision. The finale's here. We're doing a breakdown and Easter egg of this show. I can't wait for you to see what's happening.
Hey guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Jersey Comic Crew. Chris Heller, Rob Moran here as always, giving you all the breakdowns, all the Easter eggs of the finale of WandaVision. It just happened. We were very excited, a little sad. Very sad. Rob was sadder than me, surprisingly enough. There's a lot to go over. This was a massive episode. It was 50 minutes. Didn't feel like 50 minutes to me, Rob, but it was.
That's because the credits were like 20 of them.
That's so true. Waiting for the two credit scenes was very long. So we're going to dive right in, guys. Make sure you pay attention. There's a lot to go through. Easter eggs, and of course we're going to start with some Rob's recaps, and this is your final spoiler warning.
Yes, spoilers are coming, guys.
Spoiling everything.
So guys, we open right where we left off. Agatha in the air has the boys in her little like puppet strings. Wanda throws magic right at Agatha, try to get the boys to free. Tommy speeds them away, typical speedster fashion. When Wanda throws the magic, Agatha actually absorbs it. She says, I take powers from the undeserving. It's kind of my thing. And then Wanda realizes and looks at her hands, and her hand becomes like decrepit and old and like drained, essentially.
Which we see back in Salem when Agatha's kind of origin story happens, and the Coven sisters are all there, and she's obviously able to take their energy, take their life force, and we kind of see the beginning of that, creeping into Wanda's hand, which is a big Easter egg as far as how this entire episode goes.
So Wanda decides, you know what, there's a better way to do this. She picks up her car with her magic, just chucks it right at Agatha. Agatha gets set flying into the house. Wanda goes over there, and we just see the boots underneath the car.
So great.
Such a Wizard of Oz reference. I was like, the witch underneath the house. It's great. Yep. It's fantastic. Then we see Vision comes in. It's not any Vision. It's White Vision. Hayward launches White Vision, tells him to go in there. White Vision lands right in front of Wanda, puts the hand on the cheek. And Wanda's like, is this really you, Vision? Is this you? He says, Wanda, grabs with the other hand, starts to squeeze her head. And then in typical Vision style, the real Vision, or I should say the Vision that was created from Wanda, comes in, just slaps the shit out of White Vision, sends him into the car. And then Agatha up in the air is like, oh, this is awkward. Your ex and your boyfriend are at the same party. What are you going to do?
Such a douche.
Right? I gotta say though, Agatha and her one-liners and just like her personality really did the show justice.
Yeah, no, her entire kind of persona, her makeup, adding to like already terrible tense situations with like the comic relief as well, the trope, I thought was fantastic. She's really good in this.
We now cut back to the sword side of things. Jimmy gets captured by some sword agents, brought into the facility. Jimmy secretly sees a phone flashing, grabs it without Hayward noticing. Hayward says, I'm going to get away with this. Wanda canceled her show. There's no evidence of that. There's no proof of the Vision. You know what, Jimmy? You could have won. You could have been a winner with me if only you had a little bit more Vision.
Oh, God. Just, it's such a douche chilly line.
I loved it.
Even though, like, it's made to be douche chilly, but, oh, man, the douche chills. Also, like, how did Jimmy just grab a phone that was in front of everyone?
Yeah, it's not like they're all trained government officials, right?
Yeah, like, it was just very odd to me. I mean, it sets up the magic trick, and it sets up him getting out of handcuffs, and he's putting that, like, hold where there's a bunch of hay, which I'm guessing is when Wanda, like, reduced the hex. That was part of the circus area. I think
so.
Because last time I checked, Sword didn't have horses around, so he was
that you know of.
That I know of. So he's putting this like hay bunker. So that was a little odd, but yeah, like it was just to set up the magic trick, and eventually like help take down Hayward, where he makes this call to this guy Cliff from Quantico, who is a guy named Cliff. And I was like, wait, could that be somebody? Guy named Cliff. So another FBI guy.
We go back to the battle between Wanda and Agatha. They're going back and forth, and Agatha mentions that there is a whole chapter of Wanda dedicated to her in the Darkhold. So we do get confirmation that is the Darkhold. The Darkhold is the Book of the Damned. She says that Wanda's power is greater than the Sorcerer Supreme. Wanda has a destiny to destroy the world. Wanda responds like, I am not what you say I am. Agatha says, oh, really? And again, in that little Agatha witty charm of hers.
It was awesome to get all this as a confirmation. Number one, we were right about the Darkhold. I know I went down the train of crazy
We
theories,
all
and
did.
I apologize, but yeah, the Darkhold is real. The fact that she has stronger powers than the Sorcerer Supreme is a massively big deal, especially what we know going forward, as well as saying the Scarlet Witch is a world destroyer, which is a term that is used in Marvel Comics a lot. World destroyer, planet destroyer. Thanos has been called it once in a while. Ego, the living planet. Galactus is obviously known as the World Destroyer, so I don't know if that's a hint, but definitely stay tuned to our episode after this where we talk about those post-credit scenes and all the big-time things that might be coming in Phase 4, because we are definitely going to talk about this.
Speaking of big things coming in Phase 4, we got to talk about Monica. So Monica, last we saw, was captured by Pietro, or Fietro, fake Pietro, right? She's trapped in, like, his attic. Monica eventually does some detective work and notices a bank statement there. And reads that it says Ralph Boner, and then Pietro goes, Boner. And then, Agnes doesn't live here. This is Ralph, and I guess this is the Ralph that she's been talking about this whole time. And then she notices that there's a necklace on him, so she throws him across, rips the necklace off, kind of breaks him from the spell. And Ralph comes to and asks that Monica spare his life.
It was such an odd sequence of events.
It was like, I felt like they didn't know how to wrap up the Pietro Monica thing, and they just kind of like, this is the best we could do.
Yeah, like, I think Marvel obviously knew the second they put Evan Peters in there as, like, fake Quicksilver, it was going to be speculation and everything galore, which is what they wanted.
Correct.
But then I thought it was personally funny to make him this nobody.
And to make him Ralph, who we all thought was, like, Mephisto.
Right? And, like, just make him Ralph. And it was also weird because Monica, like, tried to run away from him at one point, and she gets, like, thrown, and it's like, he's a speedster. What are you doing? Unless it was to get her over to that area where she could, like, look at the statement.
I guess.
But also, what I thought was interesting was his setup in that attic was similar to the basement setup he had when he was actually Quicksilver in the Fox X-Men movies back in Days of Future Past.
This whole scene with Monica and Pietro in the attic was Marvel's just big middle finger to us theory fans. Like, it's not the X-Men. It looks like it, but it's not. That's Ralph. That's also not Mephisto.
He's
so
nobody.
You're just double done. He's a nobody. You're dumb. You're wrong. I'm like, all right.
Why would you do this? Because it's fun.
So, again, we pan back to the fight sequence between Agatha and Wanda. Agatha releases Dottie from the spell, says that she's your meat puppet. I just cut her strings. You see how much pain she's in. Meanwhile, Tommy and Billy run over there to try to help Mommy. The rest of the townspeople get released, and they all start, like, essentially verbally abusing and assaulting Wanda, saying, we feel all your pain and your grief. We have nightmares. We can't see our kids. You won't allow us to do this. Wanda freaks out and, like, says, I'm going to let you go. She starts to break down the hex. Agatha's just sitting there with a shit-eating grin on her face, essentially. Like, she knows what's going to happen. The hex begins to open. Hayward notices this is his chance to come in. Him and his goons come in with the guns. And I'm like, wait a minute. What are you going to do? Your guns are you have no power here, sir. You got Vision. You have the kids. Everybody's going to stop you. You're just wasting your time, right? But as the world begins to open, we see Billy and Tommy start fading away. The vision she created starts fading away. Agatha's up there saying, you could either save the people in Westfield or save your family. What are you going to do? Wanda's freaking out in pain. She doesn't know what to do. She's seeing the people she loves in pain. She decides to close it back up to try to save them.
And before I get to the Easter egg, I just want to say, if Hayward never goes into the hex, all he has to do is drive away and he's free. Like, it's literally like, why are you entering the hex? You sent White Vision in there for a reason, right? Like, he's going to do his job. Yeah. Why are you going in there? Another thing I was thinking about, but
true. I didn't even think of that.
We do get confirmation on what Rob and I have been talking about for the past couple of weeks. Like, are the kids real? Are they part of Mephisto's soul, or what are they? They do start to disappear outside of the hex once the hex starts breaking down. So it is at the moment still a part of this hex that Wanda has created, and also the same as Vision, as well as Agatha has this great line that we touched upon. Like, you tied your family to this twisted world, and now no one can exist without the other. To me, that was like this deeper meaning, going back to what Vision said in the last episode about, love persevering with grief. That is kind of Wanda's essence right now, even though Agatha used it as a line to, anger her or upset her. It does tie in with the overall theme of the show.
Exactly. And this is actual final confirmation that the kids are also not real, right? We've been thinking that they're going to be the one things that are real.
Not real.
not real. We still don't know what's going on, right?
Parentheses, quotes, whatever.
So Sword enters the fight. The agent's coming out there, and then Agatha mentions like there's always going to be people with pitchforks and torches for women like us, Wanda. Like still trying to get like her on her side, still trying to convert her to like have this coven essentially. And then she tries to attack Wanda and the kids, and then Wanda puts up, that protective bubble that we've seen before, tries to save everybody. Wanda tells the kids, hey, you kids take the military on. I'm going to go deal with Agnes, and then we'll see what's going on. Hayward shoots the kids. Well, first, Hayward tries to shoot the kid. Wanda runs in front of the bullet, and Monica's powers start activating to another layer, and the bullets start to phase through or just drop on the floor. Billy catches another one of those bullets. Hayward's realizing, I got to get out of here, jumps in the car, starts running away. And then we see my girl Darcy hits him with that Big Mac truck. And I'm like, yes, good. She deserves that win. We haven't seen her in a while. I hate Hayward. That's what he gets.
Yes, that was a little predictable.
How? No, I mean,
because we didn't see Darcy for 2 episodes, and she was still stuck in traffic, and they needed to close that loop of storytelling. And I don't know, to me it was a little cheap on the side of like, all right, like we need to give Darcy something else to do because we put her in the hex and she's not outside where she's actually really helpful.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little like predictable on that side, but again, like I'm not against hitting Hayward with an ice cream truck.
I think Hayward's going to be the new insult. Like when somebody's pissing me off, I'm like, you're such a Hayward.
You're such a Hayward.
You're such a Hayward.
And then also what you mentioned before when Wanda throws up that hex bubble, that is a classic Scarlet Witch move from the comic books.
Yes.
We see that all the time in the Avengers, where, massive projectiles and she protects everybody in that bubble.
That's every
Great comic
telepath
callback.
and mind-powered person does that. Jean Grey, Invisible Woman.
Yeah, Professor X. Yes, Sue Storm especially does that.
Maybe this is a callback to that. No, I'm done with the theories. I'm done.
Conspiracy cap.
We got to talk about Vision, right? We saw White Vision and Vision are still fighting, right? But in the library, which is such an iconic place for them because they're such intellectual beings, Wanda's Vision asks White Vision, what is your intention? What are you here to do? And he's like, I'm here to destroy the real Vision. And Wanda's Vision says that I'm just a conditional Vision. I'm not the real Vision. And then they start talking about the ship of Theseus theory, which is pretty cool.
Yes, Robert, actually, the ship of Theseus theory for all you uneducated boobs out there who did not go to Cambridge or did not have these kinds of conversations in your dormitory. But yes, so the ship of Theseus is...
the whole thing. You got to keep doing
You want the whole thing in British? All right,
No, it's fine. It's fine. We'll be here all day. Go ahead.
But basically, for me to talk faster, it'll be quicker. But the ship of Theseus theory is kind of like a Schrodinger's cat, if you're familiar with it. The Theseus theory is the actual ship that Theseus supposedly was on during his travels. It's in a museum. It was made of wood. All ships back then were made of wood. And the wood eventually rotted because of all the salt water it took on, all the minerals and bacteria. So they were replaced with new slabs of wood. So basically the whole ship was replaced eventually due to wood rot.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually the original ship, they kept those pieces in a locker because they were technically the original ship. They figured out a way to take away rot from wood and restored it, thus recreating the ship. So the question is the real ship the one that was recreated from the rot, or is it the one that replaced the old ship? And that's what Vision and White Vision are discussing. Am I the real Vision because Wanda created me from what was originally real, or are you the real Vision because you have my original body but not my original mind? So that's the basis of what that conversation was about.
And like, I didn't ask for my mind to be fried. I was like, they're both real. They're both not real. One's more real than the other. I don't know. But
like Schrodinger's cat, right? Like the cat is both alive and dead in the box if you don't open it.
Correct.
So
White Vision asks if like he could get his own memories back, essentially. Vision accesses White Vision's mind and restores all of the memories, pre-Westworld. No, Westworld. Sorry, Westview. Wrong West, right? White Vision's eyes go from like the robotic blue to the realistic Vision yellow, and he says, "I am Vision," and then leaves through the sky. And we don't see him at all.
That's it.
After it, that's it.
And that was interesting because when he kind of delves into it wasn't a mind stone, right? It looked like some type of almost like a PC processor or something.
Yeah, like a processing chip almost.
And he delves into him. That's kind of what we saw in Age of Ultron, Rob, when we were kind of getting the origins of Ultron and Vision, where Ultron's programming like attacked the original programming that was at the time Jarvis. And then it became Vision, and Vision kind of did the same thing back to Ultron and like blocked him from escaping through the interwebs or whatever.
Exactly. We get back to the fight, right? We saw Wanda use that like fade away magic that Agatha did, comes back behind Agatha, touches the temple, essentially, whatever this part of the brain is, the head. Brain.
Temple.
Oh, I was right. Haha. And then puts Agatha in a nightmare, right? And then this is the same kind of stuff that she used in Age of Ultron. She messed with all the Avengers that way to take them down. She sees the nightmare. The dead coven of witches rise up to try to attack Agatha. And Agatha essentially somehow turned all of them against Wanda. And the witch coven mother and all the other ones says, "You are the Scarlet Witch. You are the hairbringer of chaos." And then Wanda's freaking out. But then we saw the red crown start forming on Wanda. Agnes goes, again, in this cocky but yet fun attitude, says, "You know, Wanda, power isn't your problem. It's knowledge." Agatha offers a trade, if you will. She's like, I'll fix everything with your original spell. I'll make it so that way the kids are come back and you can save the citizens of Westview if you give me all your power. And then we get a snap back to reality. And then it was, oops, there goes gravity. No, let me stop. No.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah. All right, I understand it failed, but you enjoyed it. Some of you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
But I'm also a cornball, so.
That's fine. We get back to reality. The two witches are flying around. They're throwing spells at each other. Pew, pew, pew. Wanda's hitting some of Agnes, and Agnes is getting hurt, but she's absorbing it. And we see Wanda starts to get decayed more. And Wanda's missing some of her shots and hitting the wall. And then, we pan over. Everybody's just watching this fight in the sky. After a while, we see Wanda's like purely like drained of her life force. Looks like a husk of zombie. And Agnes is like, she has all the power. She thinks she's about to launch her final attack to win. But like she can't, right? She starts to fade away. And then Wanda starts healing herself and she's like, "Thanks for the lesson." And then we see runes all over the hex. And she's like, "This is what you taught me. Only the witches who cast the runes in this space can use their magic." Wanda powers up by sucking all the energy out of Agnes. And then, guys, we get this beautiful costume of modern and comic accurate Scarlet Witch. She gets that red dress. She looks powerful. And I was like, oh, yes, that was fantastic. I loved it. I was like, yes, you get that outfit. She looks badass, man.
I love that. Yeah, it was also to me, it reminded me a little Harry Potter-esque, like the Voldemort battle at the end in the air where everyone's just boom, boom, boom. Do you also, I think we all had almost Agnes's reaction or Agatha's reaction when she was like missing on purpose. She kind of like did that, like, you're not even close to
I thought she was dodging.
What are you doing?
I didn't think that she was missing on purpose. I thought she was dodging.
No, I think I knew she was hitting the hex around her on purpose. It took me a second to realize the runes, but yeah, no, really, really epic air battle, which we don't have as many anymore without Iron Man, rest in peace. And now that Agatha is kind of like this powerless human on the floor, right? She took all her power back. She's able to suck her power back. And, we have this kind of reborn Scarlet Witch of legend. Agatha's basically like, you have no idea what you've done or what you've unleashed.
Exactly.
And I know I've been on this train for the entire series, and I'm still on this train.
True.
That isn't a Mephisto reference, I don't know what is.
I know. I think Marvel's kind of saying, hey, cut it out.
No, I think he's coming. I just don't know when, but I'm guessing Loki at this point. But obviously, we also get the vision that we saw of Wanda in the last episode when the Mind Stone kind of reactivates her full power.
Correct.
Of what she would look like in the future. I don't know if there's a correlation between Wanda being like, hey, I saw this, so this is what I'm going to do, or this was just always going to be kind of what the costume was going to be. But that was the same thing we saw in the Mind Stone.
So as she's lying on the floor, she says to her, "You're going to need me." And Wanda's like, "If I do, I know where you are." and she mind whammies Agatha go back into the role that she selected as the nosy neighbor Agnes, so that way she's going to be trapped in Westview forever, which is going to be great because like that means we might get more of Agatha Harkness.
Oh, we will, definitely. And again, stick around later for our thoughts on Agnes and what comes next. Next video, we're going to deep dive into all those theories and kind of speculation for what's next with Scarlet Witch and Agnes and that line about clearly Mephisto.
So after that scene, she walks away. This is where we're going to get the family goodbyes, right? Wanda and Vision put the kids to bed. Wanda turns to them and says, "Thank you for choosing me to be your mom." And I was like, oh, I'm already crying. I'm already tears. And I'm like, oh, God, the goodbye with her and Vision is going to be so rough. You know, Wanda turns off the light. Vision turns it back on. She's like, "I want to be able to see you more clearly." Vision knows that time is short. He asks Wanda, like, "What am I?" And then Wanda goes like, "You're a piece of the Mind Stone that lives in me forever. You're a body of wires of blood and bone that she created, her sadness, her hope, and her love." And I'm like, God.
Yeah, that was also a big moment because we get confirmation that whatever essence of the Mind Stone, like not a piece of the Mind Stone thinking of oh, there's a quarter of the Mind Stone missing inside of this chick. No, it's the essence when it activated her powers, which we saw. That essence of the Mind Stone, that massive power, is in Wanda upping her witch powers, which also when she created Vision, when it goes from like the red power in her body to like that yellow Vision makeup, that was the Mind Stone itself activating. So
exactly,
the Infinity Stones are still a big part of this Marvel universe.
Correct. As they hold each other and they're about to say their final goodbyes, Vision says, "I have been a voice with no body, a body but not human, and now a memory made real. Who knows what might be next in the future." As the hex closes, Vision says that they've said their goodbyes before, so stands to reason. And then Wanda finishes the sentence, "We'll say hello again." And he fades away. I'm crying profusely. Marvel did such a good job. They
just ugly crying.
Ugly cry. They dragged out they did the whole rotation. He starts fading away. And I'm like, just rip the Band-Aid off. I don't know about you, but I was emotional.
It was the ending of this episode was absolutely beautiful. The explanation of Vision basically recapped his entire MCU life, right? The line where he says, "I've been a voice with no body," that was Jarvis.
Correct.
That was Tony Stark's AI robot. And then a body but not human is when he's born into the Vision and is on the quest through Age of Ultron to figure out what and who he is. And then now a memory made real. Yeah. That is exactly WandaVision, where she made him real out of memory. And who knows what he'd be next, right? Because the real Vision, or at least now, white/real Vision flew away, and I'm sure is trying to figure this all out. Who knows what's going to be next? We'll talk about that later as well. But I'm going to assume eventually that will become the real Vision again.
Yeah, I think so, but we'll see.
I was also in the question of like, there's going to be legal ramifications. Like, she needs to get the hell out of that town. Like, she's like walking through town like nothing's going on. I'm like, you're about to get like arrested because like this is basically a massive kidnapping. But
yeah.
So
true.
I thought it was a good touch that the sirens were coming in to add like, hey, we're not going to ignore the fact that she was in the wrong here as far as criminal activity, but she, how are you going to catch a witch that flies
she's
away?
In the wrong, but like the lead person, we're going to talk about this in a second, like Jimmy Woo, like because Hayward's getting arrested because he obviously was like trying to mess with stuff, right? Like she's in the wrong, but they also all understand on the government level that she's going to get a pass kind of deal, right? Because she's an Avenger, she saved people, she had a meltdown, she's upset, she didn't kill anybody, people just had a bad week, right? I don't know. We'll see how that.
We'll see, but I think it would be interesting, kind of what we saw in the beginning of Endgame, where Cap was in that circle of therapy with all the people that are affected by the blip, whether it's loved ones gone or how they're moving on. If there is kind of a similar effect to the people of Westview, New Jersey. We all know people from Jersey need therapy, but
amen, brother.
If you take these people from Westview who literally were like, no, we can't sleep. We have your nightmares. Like, you won't let us see our kids. The whole thing with Dottie with her daughter. Yeah. And like, hey, they can play with your kids if you want. Like, I just want to let her out of her room. Like stuff like that. That is stuff that's not going to go away just because Wanda flew off to God knows where. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So those are going to be lasting effects. It'd be interesting to see the PTSD or the psychological mental issues that residual effects later on.
So now we get 2 post-credit scenes, guys, which hopefully you all watched. So the first one is going to talk about my man Jimmy Woo, who's definitely going to get his own show, and I love it that the internet loves him. He deserves it.
Is he, though?
I don't know if he is. He deserves it.
I don't think he is. I don't think he was in it that much. They didn't give him much to do besides, like, magic tricks.
It doesn't matter. That's all he needed.
Jimmy Woo,
the internet
MCU X-Files, Jimmy and Darcy, or Jimmy and Monica?
It could just be him as, like, FBI running around, like the Agents of S.W.O.R.D., but, like, actually good. But anyway, so Jimmy's in charge of cleaning up the S.W.O.R.D. disaster. The rest of his goons are being arrested. Monica is told that she's needed in the theater by an agent. She heads to the theater. The cop, one of the FBI agents, go in there, turns around and changes her face. She's a Skrull. I'm like, ha! She's an old friend of your mother's. Heard that you've been grounded. He'd like to meet with you. And Monica's like, where? And the Skrull points up north. And I'm like, what? Who? What? When? Where? Why? Huh?
Yeah, to me that's just Nick Fury, right? Like it has to be Nick Fury. To me, because the last, one, number one, they specifically the Skrull specifically said he, right? Yeah. He'd like to meet with you.
An old friend of your mother.
An old friend of your mother. Nick Fury was around in the 90s when Captain Marvel 1 happened.
Yeah.
And the last time we saw Nick Fury, he was in space with the Skrulls. And to me, that's the next evolution of S.W.O.R.D., right? Like, to me, that's Monica Rambeau is going to become the head of S.W.O.R.D., but it's going to be more of like the space protection with the Skrulls.
The last end credit scene we got to touch upon, we see a wide shot of the rural mountains and old log cabin. And I'm like, oh, this looks beautiful. This is where I want to rest. We see Wanda outside with a cup of coffee, deep in thought. She's just chilling. She goes back inside to pour herself, I think it's more tea. Pours herself more tea. Then we go to the bedroom, and then we see kind of like a Doctor Strange-esque moment. She's in there standing, doing magic, reading the Darkhold, and then there's another version of her that's like a Doctor Strange trick. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And we hear Billy and Tommy's voice cry out for her mom, and it cuts to black. Maybe she's like going to be I don't know. The kids are going to get reborn because of this. She's obviously doing something with that Darkhold. I don't know what's going to happen, man.
I think there's 2 things that are clear, right? Well, number one is Billy and Tommy are still alive, either in the comic book versions of Mephisto's soul, still those pieces crying out, or in the multiverse somewhere. Obviously, the line that Agatha has of it's not the power that's your problem, it's the knowledge. She's fixing the knowledge part, right?
She's trying to bring back the kids. She wants those kids back, right? That's what it is.
And if they were born as Tommy Shepard, you know what I mean, at the other families, and they're not going to know it's her until later on. We might see that was a comic book storyline, but yeah, that was a great scene. And I also, to me, it's almost like she's in the outskirts of Sokovia or somewhere in the Europe mountains.
That could be where she feels at home and where she feels safe.
In that log cabin away from everyone, so she could learn to control her power, kind of like what we saw Hulk doing in the first Avengers movie, right? He was going from town to town, kind of hiding out to so he didn't like Hulk out on people. So again, a lot more in the next episode, guys. You do not want to miss it. We're going to deep dive into all the next things of Phase 4 and what's next for these characters as well within that. It's going to be awesome.
Guys, that ends this video of our breakdown of the Wandavision finale and all of our Easter eggs. Comment down below what was your favorite moment and your favorite Easter egg, and let us know if you missed any.
And guys, thanks so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up, really helps the channel out a lot. If you're brand new, subscribe, turn on those notifications. You don't want to miss any more videos like the ones we were just talking about. That's going to be next. We're going to delve into Falcon Winter Soldier in a couple of weeks. We're delving into the Snyder Cut in a couple of weeks.
That's right.
It's going to be extremely busy for us, so you do not want to miss any of that. And as always, I'm Chris Heller. That is Rob Moran. We're the Jersey Comic Crew, and we'll see you next time.